Listen, when I say I do, that means I do.
Remember that first time watching Roger Rabbit? When cartoons and humans shared the screen like it was totally normal?
Does anybody understand what this duck is saying?
That movie wasn't just revolutionary, it was absolutely bonkers behind the scenes. Today, we're counting down 20 jaw-dropping facts about the film that changed cinema forever. If you thought you knew everything about Toontown, hold on to your dip. 20. The director disaster nobody talks about. Disney originally hired a completely different director to helm Roger Rabbit, but fired him after just 1 week of pre-production. The guy wanted to make it a fully animated film with no live action at all. Can you imagine? Robert Zemeckis swooped in with his Back to the Future credentials and saved the project from becoming just another Saturday morning cartoon. Sometimes the best movies come from the worst starts, and this firing might have saved cinema history. 19. The ink and paint budget that broke records. The animation budget alone cost $70 million, more than most entire blockbusters in 1988. Every single frame required hand-drawn animation composited with live footage, no computers, just pure artistic insanity. ILM spent over $30 per frame just on the ink and paint process. To put that in perspective, Batman's entire budget the next year was $35 million. Disney executives literally needed therapy after seeing the invoices rolling in. But hey, you can't revolutionize cinema on a shoestring budget. 18. Bob Hoskins' invisible breakdown. Bob Hoskins spent 5 months talking to tennis balls, rubber dolls, and absolutely nothing while filming his scenes. By month 3, he started hallucinating cartoon characters in his peripheral vision at home.
Oh, where your office was, so I asked the newsboy. He didn't know, so I asked the fireman, the greengrocer, the butcher, the baker, they didn't know. But
His wife found him having full conversations with Roger in their kitchen at 2 a.m. The man literally gave himself mild psychosis for the role and later called it the hardest job I ever did. Method acting meets Looney Tunes, and sanity loses every time. 17. Jessica's dress defied physics and animators. Jessica Rabbit's sparkly red dress required its own animation team because it broke every rule of traditional cartoon movement. The fabric had to behave realistically while she moved impossibly, creating a paradox that drove animators to exhaustion. Disney brought in special effects animators just to handle the light reflections on those sequins. One animator quit after spending 3 weeks on 4 seconds of her walking. That dress wasn't just iconic, it was a technical nightmare wrapped in sparkles. 16. The shoe murder. That traumatized test audiences. Judge Doom's demonstration of the dip, where he slowly dissolves an innocent cartoon shoe.
So cute.
Left test audiences genuinely disturbed. Parents complained it was too intense, kids cried, and Disney almost cut it entirely. The shoe's terrified squeaking as it melts was performed by voice actress Nancy Cartwright, pre-Bart Simpson. Spielberg fought to keep it, arguing the scene was essential to establish real stakes. Somehow, a dying shoe became more emotionally devastating than most human death scenes. 15. Harrison Ford could have been Eddie Valiant. Harrison Ford was Spielberg's first choice for Eddie Valiant, fresh off Indiana Jones' success. Bill Murray campaigned hard for the role, even showing up uninvited to meetings. Eddie Murphy was offered $8 million, but turned it down. Robin Williams wanted in, but was deemed too comedic. Imagine any of those alternate realities. Bob Hoskins only got the part because he was shorter, making the toon interactions easier to frame. Sometimes being 5 feet 6 inches pays off in Hollywood. 14. Mel Blanc's final legendary performance. This was Mel Blanc's last theatrical film before his death, voicing Bugs, Daffy, Porky, and Tweety one final time. At 80 years old, wheelchair-bound and on oxygen between takes, he still nailed every line with perfect timing. The recording sessions were so emotional that the crew gave him standing ovations after each character. He insisted on doing Porky's stuttering live, refusing to let them loop it in post-production. When he finished Porky's final, "That's all, folks," everyone knew they were witnessing history. Warner Brothers executives actually cried during playback. The voice of our childhoods literally used his last breath to bring these characters to life. No one could do Bugs eating a carrot like Mel, and after this film, no one would ever have to. 13. Jessica's voice was actually two women. Kathleen Turner voiced Jessica's speaking parts but refused to do the singing, calling it too risque for my image. Amy Irving stepped in for the musical numbers, including the sultry "Why Don't You Do Right." Disney kept this split secret for years, crediting only Turner initially. Irving had to sue for proper credit and royalties, eventually winning her case. The deception went so deep that Turner did publicity tours claiming she sang, while Irving couldn't publicly discuss her involvement due to NDAS. Two actresses, one animated bombshell, and a lawsuit that proved Jessica really was too much for one woman to handle. Turner later admitted she regretted not doing the singing, especially after seeing the film's success. She wasn't bad, she was just drawn with complicated voice contracts. 12. Mickey and Bugs' historic legal nightmare, getting Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same scene, required 9 months of negotiations between Disney and Warner Brothers legal teams. Lawyers measured their screen time down to the millisecond, ensuring exactly equal presence at 97.5 seconds each. Their parachute scene contracts specified identical word counts, 37 words, fall speeds, 24 frames per second, and landing positions. Both hit ground on frame 2,847. Both studios had representatives on set with stopwatches and scripts, ready to call halt if their character got shortchanged. The scene cost $800,000 just in legal fees. This was the animation equivalent of the Camp David Accords, with more lawyers than animators. One frame too many for either character would have triggered breach of contract lawsuits worth millions. 11. The Donald versus Daffy piano war went nuclear. The dueling pianos scene between Donald and Daffy Duck required separate recording sessions, because neither studio would let their character lose or look inferior. Each duck got exactly 87 frames of winning, counted by lawyers with stopwatches and notepads. The scene's violence escalated because both voice actors, Mel Blanc and Tony Anselmo, kept improvising nastier attacks, trying to upstage each other through their performances. The studios never let them record together, fearing real-life confrontation. Animation directors had to use a chess clock to ensure equal gag time. Both characters' signature speech impediments had to be equally unintelligible. 2 ducks, 2 studios, 1 piano, and enough contractual pettiness to fuel an actual war. The scene almost got cut 3 times over legal disputes about who got the final laugh. 10. The 3 frames that caused chaos. For exactly 3 frames during the Benny the Cab crash sequence, Jessica's dress flies up during impact, revealing she wasn't wearing underwear. Disney animators slipped it past censors, but home video viewers with pause buttons found it immediately in March 1994. The controversy led to a massive recall of 3.4 million laserdiscs, costing Disney an estimated $15 million. Religious groups called for boycotts, claiming Disney promoted subliminal sexual messages. Subsequent releases digitally added underwear to those 3 frames, making original laserdiscs valuable collector's items. The animator responsible was allegedly fired but never publicly identified. 3 frames, 1/8 of a second of screen time, caused more scandal than the entire rest of the movie combined. Sometimes animators really do need adult supervision, especially when they're drawing adult situations. 9. Baby Herman's between takes nightmare fuel. Baby Herman's adult voice between takes, complete with cigar smoking and sexual harassment, was originally much worse than the final cut. The uncensored footage had him making explicit propositions to his nurse that would make HBO blush. Test audiences were so uncomfortable that Disney cut 90% of his adult dialogue leaving only the tamest jokes. Voice actor Lou Hirsch recorded 3 hours of improvised vulgarity that will never see daylight, locked in Disney's vault. Hirsch based the voice on old Hollywood producers he'd worked with, adding authenticity to the creepiness. Several female animators complained about having to animate the cutscenes. The baby who swears like a sailor exists in full somewhere in Disney's archives, probably next to Song of the South and other unreleasables. 8. The deleted pighead scene. An entire sequence where Eddie finds a cartoon pig's head in his bed, Godfather style, was filmed but cut for being too psychologically disturbing. The head would have talked and pleaded while slowly decomposing into dip, begging Eddie to save him. Hoskins called it the most disturbing thing I've ever filmed, and I did The Long Good Friday. The animation alone cost $300,000 before Spielberg decided it pushed the PG rating into R territory. The scene would have revealed that Doom had been murdering toons for weeks before the film started. Test audiences literally walked out during this sequence. Somewhere in Disney's archives, there's completed footage that would have turned this into a hard R horror film. Even Toontown has its limits on nightmare fuel. 7. Jessica's original design got Disney executives sweating. Jessica's first design by animator Richard Williams was so anatomically explicit that Michael Eisner personally demanded changes after seeing the pencil tests. Her original measurements violated Disney's internal decency guidelines by ratios that legal wouldn't approve. Disney's compromise kept her impossibly proportioned, but technically clothed at all times. The animation team had to create special mathematical rigs just to move her hips without breaking the film's internal physics entirely. Williams fought for 3 months to keep the original design, arguing it was artistically essential. One executive famously said, "She can be sexy, but not pornographic," leading to frame-by-frame reviews by Disney's board. That line got real blurry, and the animators spent 6 months walking it. Jessica went through 137 design iterations before approval. 6. The freeway conspiracy was real. The plot about Judge Doom destroying Toontown for a freeway wasn't fiction, it was actual Los Angeles history barely disguised. The Pacific Electric Railway conspiracy really happened, with General Motors, Firestone, and Standard Oil buying and dismantling public transit to force car dependency. The fictional Cloverleaf Industries paralleled real corporations that reshaped Los Angeles through the 1940s and 50s. Toontown stood in for Chavez Ravine and other minority neighborhoods bulldozed for highways. Writer Jeffrey Price's own grandfather lost his home to freeway construction. This cartoon noir was actually a documentary about urban planning genocide with funny animals. Judge Doom's plan was literally what happened to real communities. Sometimes the real villains don't need dip, just eminent domain. 5. The Rubber Roger Revolution (ILM) created elaborate rubber puppets of Roger that Charles Fleischer wore on his back like a bizarre backpack, allowing Hoskins to physically interact with something tangible during filming. These puppets cost $40,000 each and kept breaking during takes, requiring constant repairs by a team of 6 technicians. Fleischer performed every scene in full Roger costume, including ears and gloves, to maintain character movement consistency, even though he'd never appear on camera. The crew called him the $1 Million Mime because his physical performance was invisible but absolutely essential. Hoskins could actually grab, push, and hold Roger during scenes, selling the interaction completely. 4. The lighting breakthrough that changed everything. Industrial Light and Magic invented entirely new techniques to make cartoon characters exist believably in real lighting conditions. Every toon had to cast shadows, reflect in mirrors, and be affected by lighting changes as they moved through scenes. The nightclub sequence alone required 14 different lighting passes per frame to make Jessica's dress sparkle correctly under stage lights. ILM developed interactive shadows, where Roger's shadow would affect Hoskins' face lighting in real-time compositing. This had never been done before in cinema history. The rendering farm ran 24/7 for 8 months, just processing lighting calculations. 3. the Disney-Warner peace treaty that rewrote history. The Roger Rabbit negotiations created the first and only legal framework for Disney and Warner Bros. Characters to coexist on screen, a document that's still referenced in Hollywood law schools. The 247-page contract covered everything from character dignity clauses to merchandising rights splits. Both studios appointed character integrity officers to monitor the production. The agreement took 14 months to finalize, longer than the actual filming. It established precedent for every future studio crossover, from Marvel to DC discussions. The contract specified that neither studio's characters could die, bleed, or show fear differently than the others. This peace treaty between animation giants paved the way for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but also ensured it would never happen again. 2. Judge Doom's genocidal backstory. Judge Doom wasn't just a villain. He was a self-hating toon who murdered Eddie's brother by dropping a piano on his head, the same toon who created the dip specifically to commit genocide against his own kind. Christopher Lloyd played him as Toon pretending to be human, never blinking for entire scenes until his eyes bulged impossibly. The original script revealed he was the unknown Toon who killed Bambi's mother, but Disney vetoed that darkness. His plan involved systematically eliminating all Toons to become the only immortal being in a human world. The red eyes scene required Lloyd to wear painful contact lenses that temporarily blinded him. 1. The dip is real cartoon killer. The dip's recipe, acetone, benzene, and turpentine, isn't random. It's the actual chemical combination that dissolves animation cells, literally the only thing that can destroy cartoons in real life. The prop department used colored water with dry ice for filming, but the sound effects were recordings of actual animation cells being dissolved in the real chemicals. Disney archivists confirmed that this combination was their nightmare scenario for preserving classic animations. The screaming shoe scene used a real cell from an unused Bambi sequence dissolved in acid. When Judge Doom demonstrates the dip, he's showing the actual way to murder cartoon history. From technical breakthroughs to contractual nightmares, from dissolved shoes to genocidal conspiracies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit wasn't just revolutionary, it was borderline insane. This movie proved animation wasn't just for kids, while simultaneously traumatizing the kids who watched it. Until next time, remember, we're not bad, we're just drawn that way.